motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Set to go down 2 weeks from now on the undercard of Kieran Conway versus George Littard. Unbeaten up-and-comer in the women's bantamweight division, Tia May Ayton will be returning to action against Argentina's own Laura Valdebenito. She's got too many goddamn syllables in it. She's going to be returning to action for the third time this year in a bantamweight contest scheduled for 6 rounds. Tia May Ayton, a child prodigy, only 19 years old, to Laura, who's 32. Tia May Ayton debuted as a professional under the Matchroom banner in June of this year. She's fought 2 times since then. This will be her third. Her opponent, Laura Valdebenito, sports professional record of 8 wins with 6 losses, 1 draw, 2 knockouts, having been knocked out once in 15 professional bouts, and that knockout loss was at the hands of her countrywoman, Saul Baumstar, all the way down there at light flyweight, whereas this contest is taking place north of that at bantam. Currently, Laura is on a 3-fight winning streak, having last seen action in July of this year, so she ain't got no ring rust to shake off.
It's not gonna help, but...
Really isn't. If she got knocked out all the way down there at light flyweight, it's safe to say that at bantam, Tia likely smokes her. Tia likely knocks her out. Other fighters that have encountered Laura and beat her: Francesca Hennessy of the United Kingdom, Chloe Watson, also of the United Kingdom. They both beat her. And if the both of them can win a points decision against Laura, it's safe to say that Tia can do a bit better than that. She can stop her. I expect her to. When Eddie Hearn first started talking about Tia May Ayton, I thought he was just doing what promoters often do. Promotion. Saying that young Tia May Ayton has all the ingredients to become Katie Taylor's successor, the next face of women's boxing. I thought to myself, he's just doing his job, until I saw her in action. Then I realized he wasn't overselling her. He was right. Tia May Ayton is showing so much already at just 2-0. If this continues and she keeps looking the way that she's been looking, she's a fucking monster. She's campaigning as a bantamweight right now, and currently, Shernika Johnson has all 4 alphabet titles in the bantamweight division. Dina Thorsland is lineal and Ring Magazine champion. I don't expect Tia May Ayton to encounter either of those fighters in the near future. She's a ways out from fighting for an alphabet title. By the time she does, Shernika Johnson and Dina Thorsland will have likely moved on. The landscape at 118 pounds could look very different. Some of those girls at 115 may at some point decide to move up. Titles will be redistributed. It will all change. But at the moment, Tia May Ayton is set to make her 3rd ring appearance this year, 2 weeks from now, on Friday the 17th. Keep your eyes peeled for that. Just in keeping with the theme of all things Matchroom, I'm sure most of you have heard by now, Ben Whitaker inks long-term promotional deal with Matchroom. Matchroom Boxing assigned standout light heavyweight prospect Ben Whitaker to a long-term deal, the promotional company announced earlier today. Whitaker is a 28-year-old from the West Midlands, United Kingdom, and a 2020 Olympic silver medalist for Great Britain, who was previously signed with Boxer ever since making his pro debut in 2022. I'm at the right stage in my career now to pick the right platform and go for the right fights. So this move just made sense, Whitaker said in a pre-prepared statement. All my family has known this is where I always wanted to be. It had to be the right time. But we're here now. I know all the team here. They're very professional, and I honestly can't wait to get started. Whitaker is a flashy and flamboyant fighter, known for combining his world-class talent with showmanship and in-ring wizardry. The unique combination has registered several viral moments across social media throughout his upstart career. Though careful that he doesn't spend too much time being a showman, that he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing out there, and that's developing as a fighter. Remember that Ben Whitaker only has 10 professional fights, and that early in a fighter's career, those are developmental fights you're fighting in, and that's what you're supposed to be doing. It's for that reason that some of Ben's shenanigans have not been well received in some circles. Nevertheless, He's with Matchroom now. Ben Whitaker's last 2 fights came against Liam Cameron. In October of last year, the two fought to a 6-round technical draw after both boxers fell from the ring. Whitaker sustained an injury and was unfit to continue, but the surgeon, Whitaker, left no doubt in the rematch by picking apart and crushing Cameron this past April. I've only had 10 fights so far, and there have been a few ups and downs in those, said Whitaker, but I'm lucky that the experience I have so far will take me far in my career. I think with Eddie Hearn, Frank Smith, and Matchroom Boxing, I will become even more of a household name and one day become a world champion. Whitaker is currently ranked at number 9 by the WBC, number 13 by the IBF, but sits outside of the ring's top 10 ratings in the light heavyweight division. Whitaker is trained by renowned coach and former middleweight title holder Andy Lee. I'm ranked well with both the IBF and the WBC, so that was another reason why I wanted to come on board with Matchroom, because I believe they will help navigate my path toward winning those belts at the right time, said Whitaker, and that's what I'm here for.
The other thing that's been reported is that some of the talent that you have specific clauses that mean that if they're not with Sky, then they're able to exit the deals. Is that the case? Is there a need to get a broadcaster in quick to ensure that those contracts aren't frustrated by any means?
First of all, as I said, we're making a big announcement soon, so there's not any worry about that. These are fighters that we've started with from relatively debut, and we've got a big future ahead with them.
Eddie Hearn said he's prepared to catapult Whitaker's profile and career into a new stratosphere. He's phenomenal, said Hearn. This is the greatest signing to make in boxing today. Ben Whitaker is a generational talent, and we are ready to take his career to a whole new level. This long-term deal will propel Ben to global superstardom, solidifying his reputation as a household name and steering him toward future world titles. He will be number 1. He has the world at his feet, and I am beyond excited to finally be promoting this great young man. So it would seem that Boxer's loss is Matchroom's gain. I remember months ago when news broke that Sky Sports would not renew with Boxer. There was a story that indicated some of Boxer's flagship fighters have it written in their contracts that their fights are going to be on Sky, but with Sky not renewing with Boxer, those contracts would be void, null and void. If Boxer can't deliver on that promise to a fighter, then that fighter's not going to stick with Boxer, are they? I wonder that that's not what happened here, and I wonder if we won't see it happen again with one or some of Boxer's other fighters, like Lauren Price, Karis Artingstall, those two amateur standouts. Portion of this story that all the pundits are writing about is how this is a major signing for Matchroom, which it is, but it is also a major loss for Ben Shalom and Boxer and now the BBC, who they just inked a deal with. You have to figure that when the BBC entered into that deal with Ben Shalom and Boxer, they figured that Ben Whitaker would be boxing on their platform, and that helped to sweeten the deal, give them a reason to do it, since Boxer doesn't have that many flagship fighters, big names, or big draws. In many ways, Ben was the face of Boxer. I think they wanted it to be Fraser Clark until he got baptized by Fabio Wortley. What isn't being said is that this is in many ways a disaster for Boxer, and this may not be an isolated incident. What if this carries over to Lauren Price, unified welterweight champion? Who's to say that she didn't have it written into her contract that her fights would be on Sky? We've heard no new news about Lauren Price and when she's supposed to be fighting again. Who's to say it doesn't carry over to Caroline Dubois? It's the same with her. Boxer already didn't have the deepest stable. They had a couple of promising unbeaten up-and-comers, but the big names in UK boxing and that boxing scene are divided between Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren. That's where most of the big names in British boxing are. Boxer already didn't have that deep a talent pool, and now it would seem they've suffered a major loss. This is catastrophic. Well, Boxer's loss is Matchroom's gain. I don't think anybody is surprised by this. I think a lot of the British boxing fans knew this is what would happen. There's no question that Matchroom has developed standout amateurs and Olympians like Ben Whitaker in Anthony Joshua, in Katie Taylor. Now they aspire to do the same with him. I have my reservations about Ben Whitaker. I don't know that he's the genuine article. He gives me Josh Kelly vibes.
Yeah, you remember that guy. He was a standout amateur. He was an Olympian.
He used to box on Matchroom until David Avanesian got his hands on him and ragdolled him. And like Ben Whitaker, he was a flashy, flamboyant kind of fighter, liked to be a bit of a showman.
Careful that Ben Whitaker doesn't suffer a similar fate to Josh Kelly.
I'm not sold on Ben Whitaker, and I'm not going to apologize for that. Why would I? He's only 10 fights into his pro career, and he already suffered a scare with Liam Cameron. So, for me, those eggs need more bacon.
Though in a very general sense, this is a good signing for Matchroom. It is a major signing. You see the waves it's creating.
It's big news, all of which is good for Ben Whitaker's profile, shaking things up like this, but
Okay.
a lot of Ben Whitaker's career and what's going to happen actually falls on him more than Matchroom's promotion. I mean, they can sell him and they can promote him and tell you when he's going to fight, but it's up to him to win it.
My question to all of you is, how confident are you in Ben Whitaker? How confident are you in his ability to eventually become a world champion in today's light heavyweight division based on who's there now and who will be later on? Because Matchroom can promote him, they can sell him, but he's the one's got to win fights.
Elsewhere in the light heavyweight division, unified light heavyweight champion Dmitry Bivol is aiming for an early 2026 return, recovering from back surgery. Dmitry Bivol is eyeing a return in the first quarter of 2026 as he rehabs from surgery to repair a herniated disc in his back. His manager, Vadim Kornilov, told The Ring.
First quarter, that's anywhere in between January, February, and March.
Dmitry Bivol won the Ring's light heavyweight championship back in February in a rematch with Artur Beterbiev. He was in talks to fight Beterbiev for a third time this fall in Russia, but elected for surgery to repair his lower back. The 34-year-old underwent surgery in August and is now in the midst of a comprehensive rehabilitation program to rebuild strength in his lumbar and ensure the injury doesn't flare up again. Half of that 6-week program was conducted in St. Petersburg, Russia, where Bivol lives, and the rest is being completed in Dubai. Bivol currently undergoes therapy for 2 hours a day. The injury, Kornilov said, was causing issues for his last few training camps, and it was progressively becoming worse and worse. When Bivol was out of camp after fights, the muscles in his back became more relaxed, but would soon begin to tighten up and inflame. After the rehab program is over, Bivol will start easing his way back into boxing training ahead of his planned comeback fight early next year. That will likely take place against an easier opponent considering the severity of the injury. Dmitry has a mandatory challenger in the queue in Germany's own Michael Eifert, who's been waiting for his crack at the apple for at least 2 years now, when he defeated former champion Jean Pascal in Quebec in what was an IBF final eliminator. Initially, I thought that might be the guy that Dmitry ends up fighting, but now I'm not sure.
I've heard it said on more than one occasion that given the nature of Dmitry's surgery, that he may not come back the same guy. And I thought to myself, well, listen, if he was able to become an undisputed champion with the injury, with the herniated disc, with the correction, he might come back better.
I will forgive Dmitry Bivol postponing the trilogy fight with Artur Beterbiev to have this looked at, given that Artur Beterbiev has postponed a good number of fights, a good number of times, with injuries of his own. I will not hold that against Dmitry Bivol.
I don't think he's running. I don't think he's scared. I don't think any of those things. I mean, he had to have this corrected at some point.
Now I wonder about Dmitry Bivol's promotional situation. Is he still with Matchroom upon his return in the first quarter of next year? Are they going to be the ones promoting his fight, or will it be Umar Kremlev and the IBA?
Remember that it was Umar Kremlev of the IBA who offered to host the trilogy fight with Artur and Dmitry for reportedly more money than Turkey was going to put up.
For those not familiar with the IBA, They used to oversee all of the amateur boxing, all of the amateur tournaments leading up to the Olympic Games. But they lost recognition by the IOC due to reported match fixing and corruption, and now they're basically promoters, staging professional boxing matches. So when I hear that Dmitry Bivol will be returning in the first quarter of next year, I wonder that perhaps he won't fight on one of their shows. I don't know. Maybe he comes back with Matchroom, or maybe he comes back with them. He's got options.
You know that he could come back with Turkey. Turkey's planning on doing a show early next year.
Show's supposed to go down in February. He wants David Benavidez to box on that show. Obviously, if David Benavidez beats Anthony Yarde next month...
It's cutting it kind of close.
It absolutely is, and I'm not fully convinced that David will make it there, but this is what Turkey is planning for the first quarter of next year, so who's to say that Dmitry Bivol can't come back on that show? Many speculate that if David Benavidez beats Anthony Yarde and Artur Beterbiev wins his upcoming fight on that undercard, those two will then meet up with each other in February. So in an ideal world, you could have Dmitry Bivol make his big comeback on that undercard to prepare him for the winner of that fight later on in the year, say in the summer months, July, August.
In an ideal world.
I noticed immediately after Dmitry's surgery for that herniated disc, he had lost a substantial amount of weight. He looks to have lost at least 20 to 30 pounds. He was very, very thin. Now spending the remainder of this year rehabilitating himself and building himself back up to ease his way back into boxing.
He's got some big fights waiting for him. Fight with David Benavidez, a trilogy fight with Artur Beterbiev.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown, that's what they say. There are a good number of individuals waiting for the ring return of Dmitry Bivol that still has 3 of the 4 major titles at this weight. And even if by some chance he loses one or some of them along the way, he still is the man to beat at this weight. Because he's recovering from back surgery, it's hard to say whether or not Dmitry Bivol wins a trilogy with Artur Beterbiev. The most we can say is that time is on his side. He is some years younger than Artur Beterbiev, so he's got that working for him, and who knows, before he fights Artur might have to fight David.
Like the sound of that.
I even remember hearing that Turkey El El Sheikh has expressed an interest in having Dmitry Bivol move up in weight, down the line of course, move up in weight to the cruiserweight division to take on Jai Opataya. So there are a good number of lucrative legacy fights out there for Dmitry Bivol upon his return, but that is the official word. He's on the mend, on the comeback trail, and we can expect to see him back in action in the first quarter of next year against a tune-up kind of opponent.